Hi everyone, this is Randy Malden, President of Jack Quinn Solutions, here today to talk to you about rationalizing the supply base. This is the training we're doing, and this is a mind map of the training that you'll see when you go through this session. And this is how we'll be doing the trainings during the Supply Management Summer School this summer. As you can know, that when you have many different suppliers, it's very difficult to manage all the different parts of the supply chain. You have so many different suppliers that it's just hard to figure out which ones to use because who's the best. And when we do our training throughout the country, we always ask this question: how many suppliers are you working with? And people come back with 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 suppliers in their database. And then we ask them again, well, how many suppliers do you actually work with on a regular basis? And they say between 100 to 200. So spending the time to develop a good supplier base that is well rationalized, meaning they meet your strategic needs, is well worth the investment. And we have one client that we work with, and that's what they do: is they have about 300 vendors that they meet with on a regular basis, and they're strategic with them. They're always working with the same vendors, and when they need something, those vendors are very responsive. They're always working together for the long term. Now, if you were in our online training, you would have experienced a poll at this point. We would have asked you a question and you would have been able to respond in the classroom, virtual classroom, so that you can participate and be involved in the actual training. We go through several questions. One is, how are you today? What's your experience? When have you rationalized your vendors? So these are different questions we're asking throughout the online training that you experience when you come into the virtual classroom. As you know, my name is Randy Malden. I'm the president of Jack Quinn Solutions, the founder of Supply Leaders Academy and the CPSM Certification Bootcamp. I spent over 20 years in the Marine Corps doing many different things, and my last part is I spent as a logistics officer managing the supply chain for global operations while deployed into the Red Sea and off the east coast of Africa. And I finally finished my tour, and then when I came out, I was started training people on how to pass the CPSM certification exam, as well as working as a consultant with many different companies throughout the country, throughout the world. References for today's training is the CPSM Study Guide Exam 1, Second Edition, Task 1-F-1, page 226, and the materials that you find in the virtual training classroom is that you'd have Supply Chain Analysis PDF, which is our best-selling book on Amazon, and a mind map that you saw earlier that you could download and use for reference in the future. And the next thing we're going to do is a test. In the virtual classroom, what we do is we run a test, and you would be presented with 3 questions and have the opportunity to answer those questions so that you can move through the training. Gives us an understanding of what exactly you understand in regards to supplier validation rationalization. Now, to get started, we want to know, what is supplier rationalization? What exactly is it? It is the right mix of the right number of suppliers, that you're making sure that you're able to get the best value, because when you have too many, you may have what they call fractured spend. Fractured spend is when you're spending a little bit with so many different vendors that it's difficult to figure out where you're exactly spending and how to capitalize those economies of scale. You're not able to use those economies of scale. And one of the best things you can do when you manage your supply chain is start to leverage volume purchasing, standardization with your vendors, so that you're able to get the best deals. Instead of putting in one purchase order for 1 month, you're then able to put in a 12-month contract, which gives you a much more leverage, much better leverage when you're working with those vendors. Again, if you were in the virtual classroom right now, you'd be experiencing a poll. We would ask you, what are you doing currently to manage your vendors? And we would go through and we would understand everyone in the classroom, how they participated. And as we start to go through the information, the next step is to identify the opportunities. And how do we identify opportunities for our supply rationalization? And what first we're going to talk about is doing a strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, or a SWOT analysis. That's where we go through each category. First of all, where are we spending our money? And then once we go through that spend, is determine who we're using with those different spends. So we're looking at strengths. Are we good with the different vendors that we have? Do we have not enough vendors? Are there opportunities with new vendors or new technology coming out? Is there new technology that is threatening what we're currently doing? So we're looking at threats. So we do that. And then we look at what tools do we have to better manage our supply chain. Are we using some type of ERP, MRP? Are we using an Excel spreadsheet or an Excel database? What are we using to manage this information so we know that we can categorize our different vendors? At this point, the next stage we do in the virtual classroom is go into a breakout. This is where you would be separated in categories with your peers in the classroom, and you would have a discussion. We're going to have a breakout. We'd ask specific questions. You would talk to your peers, come up with an answer, and then submit your answer for discussion for the larger group. So we can actually break out everyone in the virtual classroom so you have even more participation in the training. And then we start to think about, we do our rationalizing, is what are some of the benefits? Ultimately we want to make sure we have the best suppliers getting the best value for our dollar. We don't want to make sure that we're getting, just onesies and twosies, or we've been using the same vendor for so many years. And that actually happened to one of our clients. They were going through training, and all they did to the vendor said, hey, we're going to compete this on the market. Immediately the vendor dropped their prices by 20%. So if you're not going through a competitive process with your vendors or rationalizing your vendors to make sure you have the right vendors, you may be spending a lot more money than you need to get the best value for your vendors, for your customers, for your clients. It's going to lower your transaction costs, because instead of doing one purchase order every month, you can do one contract for every 12 months or 3 years, or whatever it is. So you can lower your transaction costs and just simply submit a purchase order right to that vendor, and they immediately respond to you. And then you can start to leverage volume aggregation, where you're putting multiple purchases together in one system. You can do, as I mentioned before, instead of doing 1 month purchase, you can do a 12-month purchase, and you get a much better aggregation in your supply chain, and you can get some standardization going as well. So instead of buying onesies and twosies of many different vendors, you can go with one standard. One simple example is office supplies. Instead of buying 10 different kinds of pens, you can buy 2. If you focus on the standard, which is be able to write, you can then, instead of buying 110, you can buy 1,000 of one particular pen, and that gives you much better pricing as well. And then you start to get in a relationship with your vendors where you have value added activities. These are activities where you get better customer service, better warranties, on-time delivery, better responsiveness, all the reasons we're going to talk about here in a minute, and why you want to go through this entire process. Because you're ultimately going to reduce your risk in your supply chain. And when you can reduce your risk in your supply chain, then your organization, your company, can be more profitable and focus on their customers, on your customers in the long run, instead of just focusing on the day-to-day activities, jumping through hoops, day-to-days, all the different fires we have to put out. And the reasons we want to do this, as I mentioned before, we had a client that we worked with, where they immediately dropped their price by 20%. They were able to negotiate with a different vendor a $40,000 rebate every single year. The strategic partners that they have with their different vendors. And when you start to think about you working with your vendors, you validate they have the certification. They have the qualifications. The management is mature and experienced and not new. They have the right capabilities that you're looking for. You're responsive to your needs. They're jumping to meet your needs because they're giving you the right quality whenever you need it, and they're accurate with what you need. They're not wasting your time, and they're always, absolutely always flexible to meet your needs. And you go through this process every single time. You start to benefit from these reasons, and you see the value of going through this process. The next thing we do, if you're in the virtual classroom, is we would do another poll where you would participate and answer questions that are pertaining to the training. And in this particular poll, we ask, who are you categorizing now? Are you categorizing your vendors? And the results were about 50% of the people in the class were actually categorizing. The other half weren't. And how, if you were going to categorize your suppliers, how would you do that? What different categories would you use? You have your approved vendors. These are the ones that you want to work with. They have the financial stability, the long-term experience, they have what you need. You have your preferred vendors. These are the vendors you love to work with. They're the ones that you like to call, or you have to call when you need to call them. They're there for you. Your partner vendors, they're the ones that are there with you for the long term. They're giving you some kind of strategic advantage so that you can be successful. Either business advantage, operational advantage, something to do with their market, something they're giving you a vendor. They're certified. They're certified to meet your requirements for the long term, your quality requirements. They've gone through a certification process. They've met your quality requirements consistently, and they're able to, without a doubt, meet your quality requirements for the long term. And you have some vendors that are going through this process, and we call them certifiable. Again, you categorize them so that if they're up and coming, they're vendors that you can count on. Sometimes you go through an RFP that has specific requirements that you're going to want to pre-qualify those vendors to make sure they're right. They have capabilities, they're the right size, they have the right experience, have everything you need for their particular RFP. So you're going to make sure they're pre-qualified to participate in the RFP. So instead of sending it out to hundreds of vendors, you can send it out to 3 or 4 that you know are right there. Consistently, always having competition. The other kind of vendors we don't like to talk about are disqualified vendors. These are vendors that have, for some reason, have been disqualified, have done bad business practices, have not met your requirements, and or have been debarred from working with you in the future. This is what you'll see in public procurement, where they're debarred, not allowed to participate. And one of the questions that we had were in the training is, how do you stop a business from going through and changing their business name and then participating in the bids again? The way you do that is by doing this process consistently every year on a regular basis. By doing it consistently, regularly, you can ask one of those questions, which is, have you ever been debarred? Yes or no. The answer is no. Then you say, have you ever operated under a different business name? Yes or no. And if they say no, if they're dishonest and untruthful with you, and you do end up awarding a contract and finding that they are a debarred vendor or have been disqualified, then you can basically take that contract back or suspend or cancel that contract because they lied to you. You can just put that in your terms and conditions that they've been honest and truthful with you, and if they're not, they're going to lose the contract, and that's the way you can do that. Okay. And then we have these things that we have in the United States, is that we have diverse suppliers. These are diverse suppliers. They have a special socioeconomic class, either woman-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, 8A status, hub zone, Native American, Alaska Native American, one of these different types of different businesses and their socioeconomic status, and that you need to track this if you're doing federal contracting, state contracting, or you're working with a company that does this. They need this kind of information. So this is another way you want to categorize your vendors. So how do you do this? How do you go through the supplier segmentation process so that for the long term you don't have problems with segmentation? And what kind of problems might you have? Is that you may be focused on transactions and jumping through who's putting out fires, that you're not able to focus on value. You're not able to focus on the long-term relationships with your vendors. And by not developing your relationships, you have no value. You're constantly jumping through who's putting out fires, and it ends up resulting in poor management. And none of us want to have to go through this. So you want to go through the segmentation process, and that's what I'm getting ready to show you next, is exactly how you go through and segment your suppliers. The way we do that is you first identify what criteria you want to segment. What categories do you want to separate them into? What competencies do you want to make sure you have identified? And what capabilities do you need to make sure are identified for you? When you have these 3 areas identified, categories, competencies, and capabilities, then you know that your vendors are properly segmented so that you can award them or let them participate in the RFPs they need to participate in, and that you have the capabilities you need for your supply chain. How do you do this? You go sit in a room with your team and you go through and you figure this stuff out. One very easy way to start with is to just simply go through your accounting books, identify who your suppliers are, then identify what categories they're providing value for you, and then you start to assess their potential. Starting with, what kind of relationships do you have with them? Are they transactional in nature? Are they collaborative in nature? Or are they strategic in nature? Different relationships that you have with your vendors. Transactional, meaning that they're tier 4. They're just ones that you're buying one-offs on, or you don't need to leverage. They're highly competitive, meaning there's plenty of vendors out there, not a high cost. Is it something that's collaborative, meaning you need to work with those vendors to help develop solutions, that you need to work with them for the long term? Are they strategic? Are they with you for the long term in that business? Are they building your capability so that you can better serve your customers, expand your market share, be in business for the long term? And once you understand their strategic value, you're going to go through another process. So step 1 is what transactional, collaborative, or strategic, and then you're going to look at their strategic value, looking at this model, which is an ABC model, which is similar to categorizing your materials, your warehouse, in that your A items are your high value items. These are the things that you're thinking about for the long term. Strategic in nature, high dollar value. You want to make sure these vendors are identified because you want to make sure they're taken care of. Are they mid-level vendors, ones that are maybe collaborative, maybe have been with you for a long term and are always working with you, mid value, not necessarily high value? Or are they low value? Are they transactional in nature? Looking at the different ways you can look at you can do this many different ways, and this is just a suggested method, and it's a simple process to go through to do that. And if you look at if you were involved in the virtual training right now, is we would do another poll where we would ask the class and we'd say, what tools are you using? And we would assess the class. We'd ask the class, what tools are you using? Are you using an ERP system, an Excel spreadsheet, a database, or your files, emails? And we come up with those answers. And when we did this results in the training, is we found out that about half and half had an ERP and the other were using some kind of Excel database of some sort. And it could go either way. Whatever tool's best for you is the one you want to use, because I can tell you from experience, there's plenty of tools out there looking for you to make sure that you can invest, because they're the solution for your problems, even though you don't know you have problems yet. It may be that all you need is an Excel spreadsheet. If that's all you need, then that's okay. You may just need an Access database, which gives you a little bit more capability than an Excel spreadsheet and allows you to do more analysis. Or you may need to go that next level where you have an ERP system of some sort. Which one is up to you depending upon what your needs. Now, one of our strategic partners is SourceDog, and they have a very specific procurement system that is set up to do this process for you. And it does it very easily, very simply, and they have the customer service to get it done for you. So if you're interested in that, just send me an email and I'll be glad to hook you up so you can talk to SourceDog and they can tell you better. So just to kind of wrap up our training for today, as we went through and we looked at what is vendor rationalization and talked about the benefits and the reasons for doing this. And then I talked about the different categories and how you can segment your supplier base for the long term, so it's strategic in nature. And then we went through a step-by-step process and exactly how you need to do this so that you get the value for the long term with your supply base. And this was an example of how we're going to be doing the training during our summer school that's going to be starting here in a few weeks. And if you want more information, go to www.cpsmtraining.com, hit the banner that talks about the summer school, and you'll find out more information about it. This training is closing next week, so you want to secure your seat now. We have all kinds of bonuses that you can benefit from when you go through and you do this kind of training. You don't want to miss these bonuses, and let me go through them and show you. Let me go through and bring it on over here. Just go to cpsmtraining.com, okay, and you'll see this banner here. Click this banner, and what it will do is it will bring up our summer school, and it'll talk about the program. It'll explain in detail what's going on with the program and why it's beneficial for you to invest in this training, because you get to do this live with us in our training where it's collaborative. You can see the schedule here. And you can see what it is set up for Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 9:30 at night. And if you're not able to attend the training, what we're going to do is record the training so you can see it just like you're seeing this training here. You'll be able to record it and participate in it. If you actually come to the live training, or when you come to live training, you'll be asked questions, you'll be participating in tests and polls, you'll have breakout sessions, everything that I showed you in the slide. So you'll have that capability in the training, so it's interactive. It's more than just seeing me or hearing my voice. It's you interacting with your classmates. It's comprehensive and up to date. In other words, we're using the material that's up to date by ISM based on their most current materials that they're using. Their second edition study guide, their second edition professional series, their glossary that's up to date, and everything else, so it's currently and up to date. Go to our website, you can see here a similar training that you would see here. You can actually see this training here and differently. You have a community. We're going to add you to our community, which is on LinkedIn and Supplier Leaders Academy. Supplier Leaders Academy. This community is private and only for us. So you go here, you start to network, and the value of doing this is that you don't need to be in so many different systems trying to network. Once you come to this community, then you need to network, or somebody has a capability that you need. Click, you're already connected to them via LinkedIn, and you don't have to worry about an introduction so much as just a quick email, and then you know who they are, and you can quickly know if that's right. Coaching. We'll be going through coaching at the end of each session. If you notice here, we have a very specific coaching piece set up for each exam, so you'll know exactly what we're doing in the coaching, and I'll give you very specific preparation strategies to use to better prepare yourself, and very specific exam strategies that we teach our people in the boot camp so that they pass the training the first time. So make sure that you participate in the coaching, and if you need it, you can set up for one-on-one coaching today. Set up for one-on-one coaching with me so that I can meet your needs. If we don't answer your questions in the group coaching, then we'll set up an individual call. Now, all of this is included, and plus you have some testimonials that you can read through, and you can see this. This training has been, we always meet the needs of our customers. We take care of our customers, and you can see this from real customers who have participated in our training. One testimonial I'd like to point out to you is one by Tom Peters, where he shares with us the value of his entire team going through and becoming certified in supply management. That they were so impressed at this company that everyone going through executive and training now has to go through a 2-year stint with supply chain management. So, the value is so profound that there are companies are requiring their executives and training to go through supply chain management, then you want to make sure that you go through this training as well. Now we have certain bonuses that are left, and only a few. They are limited. That you can participate in our live training for half cost, half off our regular training, which is a $998 value. You get that at half the price when you register today. You also get the CPSD, which we'll be doing online this fall. It's an additional training offered by the Institute for Supply Management, and this has specifically to do with diversity. And if you look at the latest ISM salary survey, the value of the CPSM certification and the CPSD training is increased salary based on the results of their most current salary survey. And they're seeing results as 8% higher for CPSM and 5% higher for CPSD for people that go through these certifications. So this is valuable training for you. You also have the Supply Chain ACES Leadership Program. This is where we teach you how to lead without direct authority. We're using a behavior model of leadership to where you're able to quickly assess and identify the behavior style of the person you're talking to, and then present information in a way that is valuable to them, the way they need to hear it. In other words, you don't want to spend time explaining details to somebody who may not even care about the details, or trying to make friends with somebody who doesn't even want to be friends with you, or somebody that has to be friends with you before they even talk to you. So you want to make sure you go through this leadership program where we're going to teach you exactly how to do that. So this is more bonus. All these bonuses add up to $2,992 when you go through our training and register before we close this next week. In this training, you have a 30-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee. If after 30 days, within 30 days of the start date, for any reason, you are not satisfied with the training, you just let me know and we will refund your money. It's that simple. By going through the training, participating in the virtual training, and going through, you will get your money back if for any reason you are not happy. Now, this training is, limited, and it's going to close on 15 May at midnight. At that time, not only does the price go up by $600, but we also close it until the next time we open this course, which probably won't be until next year. So if you are in the hurry to get the certification and you need to get the certification done now because of your job, then this is the course you want to register for and get signed up. All you need to do is go down here, click the add to cart button. It'll take you to our registration page. Just go in, fill out your information and pay. Hit the add to button. If you want to take advantage of our 3-payment plan, again, just click this payment here. It'll set up you with payments and you'll be all set. Okay. Again, I look forward to seeing you in the training. Click the add to cart button now and we'll see you inside and get you set up so that you can be successful this summer. Hope you have a wonderful day. Before you go, click the add to cart button and we'll see you in the training.